I think it's critical that anybody who gets behind the wheel, commercial drivers or not, I expect the people that get behind the wheel to exercise proper safety.
One Tennessee lawmaker is proposing a bill that would take CDL truck drivers off the road if a law enforcement officer feels that they can't speak English well enough or understand the road signs. But one truck company broker says if the bill passes, it could further affect the supply chain.
You're looking at possibly losing, anywhere from 15 to 20% of the drivers in the network, and that could raise rates substantially.
John Ferguson is the CEO of Pivot Logistics. He says if a driver is pulled over and taken into custody by police, the truck full of items is deemed out of service until a new driver is flown into the location, and that if the driver doesn't make it on time, the items in the truck could get thrown away.
Now you're looking at anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 per truckload that has to be thrown away.
Keith Ridgway says he understands that truckers have a heavy responsibility on the highway, but it's important for them to understand the road signs, not just for their sake, but for everyone else on the road.
Anybody that's on the road has an ultimate responsibility to be able to read the traffic rules and regulations here in the United States in English.
Cynthia Swisher says she gets nervous driving near large trucks on the highway and feels even more anxious when she worries that the driver might not understand the road signs.
If all we talk about is road safety and taking care of each other and trying to do the best for everyone, we want them off the roads.
Hey, check this out. If you're new here to my channel, my name is Marcellus. This is Trucking with MBR. And what I do on my channel is I break down trucking news so drivers actually understand what it means for them. And on this video, I'm talking about a shift in the industry that is going to hit your pockets if you aren't paying attention. Now, we all seen the videos, a truck wedged under a bridge with 5 low clearance signs in front of it, a tractor trailer going the wrong way on a one-way highway. And when those clips go viral, the public asks one question: how did that person get a license? For the last few months, we've been talking about the English only rule. We've talked about regulations 391.11 and the 1937 Green Book rule. But for the longest time, that was a driver problem. If a driver couldn't speak English well enough to talk to a trooper, that driver got put out of service. They paid a fine and the carrier kept rolling. Well, that just changed. Now we're moving into an era where the DOT isn't just stopping the driver, they are coming for the carrier. New bills are hitting the floor this month that shift the target from the driver's seat to the front office. Now we are moving from driver responsibility to carrier liability. Now on this video, we're going to look at the teeth that's being put into the laws, the Wyoming blueprint that is being spread across the country, and why 2026 is the year that the paper driver finally disappears. Now let's start with the foundation, 49 CFR 391.11b2. This isn't a new rule. It's been in the federal motor carrier safety regulations before most of us was born. It states that a driver must be able to read and speak English well enough to talk to the public, understand signs, and respond to official inquiries. Now, for decades, this was a suggestion. It was rarely enforced unless a driver was involved in a major accident. But in April of 2025, an executive order titled Enforcing Common Sense Rule of the Road for American Truck Drivers changed the game. It instructed the FMCSA to stop treating English proficiency as a minor violation and start treating it as a life safety violation. As of June 2025, English proficiency was officially added to the CVSA North American Standard out of service criteria. This means if an inspector greets you and determines you can't understand their basic instructions, your truck is dead in its tracks. You are OOS immediately. But here is where the 2026 news come in. The government realized that putting the driver OOS wasn't enough to stop the practice. Carriers were just paying the fines and putting the next guy in the seat. Now, Congress is moving forward with legislation that hits the carrier safety rating and their bank account directly. If you want to see the future of trucking enforcement, Look at Wyoming. As of this month, March of 2026, Governor Mark Gordon signed House Bill 32. And this law is the blueprint for what every red state and many blue ones is about to do. Hey, I know you're enjoying the video, but check this out. If you're tired of the same old routine, chasing low boards, dealing with brokers who never pay what you're worth, or getting stuck in gig app madness, listen up. It's time to ditch all of that. With my final mile contract plug pack that I created, you're not just stepping away from the gig apps, you're also saying goodbye to the brokers, and you're saying bye to the lowball lows for good. All right. With the contract plug pack, you get real contracts, real companies, and the whole toolkit: email templates, SOPs, and everything you need to run things on your own terms. So if you're ready to break free from all that hassle, click the link in the description box below, and let's get you set up with steady, reliable contracts and real paydays. Let's make it happen. Before this law, only DOT certified highway patrol troopers could enforce language requirements. Now, every single police officer in the state of Wyoming, from a local city cop to a county sheriff's deputy, has the authority to pull over a commercial vehicle and test the driver's English proficiency. And the penalties are brutal. The first offense is a $1,000 fine and an immediate out of service order. The second offense, another $1,000 fine and a misdemeanor charge that carries up to 90 days in jail. Now think about that. We are now at a point where a language barrier can lead to a criminal record and jail time for a CDL holder. But more importantly, for the business owners watching this, Wyoming's law triggers a mandatory report to the FMCSA. When a carrier has multiple language OOS orders, they are automatically flagged for a compliance review. In the eyes of the DOT, if you are hiring drivers who can't read bridge out, you are a high-risk carrier. This is the part that every owner of a trucking company needs to pay attention to. We are seeing a massive shift in negligent hiring lawsuits. And this month, March of 2026, the Supreme Court heard arguments in a case called Montgomery versus Caribbean Transport. The core of the argument is whether a broker or a carrier can be held liable for negligently selecting a driver. So you're probably saying to yourself, why does this matter for English proficiency? Because the lawyers are now arguing that if a driver can't speak English, they are legally unqualified to operate the vehicle under 391.11. If that unqualified driver has an accident, even if the accident wasn't their fault, the carrier is being sued for negligent entrustment. The argument in court is you put a person who cannot read road signs in charge of an 80,000-pound weapon. You knew or should have known they didn't meet federal safety standards. Therefore, the carrier is 100% liable for everything that happens next. This is the end of the I didn't know defense. The DOT is now telling carriers, if you didn't test their English during the interviews, you didn't do your job. Now on this video, we're going to take a look at the numbers. In 2025, inspections showed that out of roughly 16,000 drivers inspected in certain regions, nearly 700 of them failed basic English proficiency tests. That's a high percentage of drivers who literally cannot communicate with the first responder at a crash scene. The DOT's logic is simple. If a driver can't understand a trooper telling them to move their truck because of an approaching fire or an emergency, that driver is a hazard. We are also seeing a direct correlation between language proficiency and preventable accidents. The FMCSA is now classifying accidents involving non-English speakers as potentially preventable by the carrier, simply because the driver shouldn't have been dispatched in the first place. This is why we are seeing bills like the Safe Drivers Act gaining steam. This act would mandate a national English test before any CDL is issued, regardless of the state. No more easy states for getting the license and no more waivers. It's one standard nationwide. For years, there have been a subculture in trucking of paper-only drivers, people who have the CDL on paper but don't actually meet the federal qualifications to drive. Maybe they use an interpreter for the test. Maybe they found the school that helped them through. In 2026, those drivers are becoming a liability that will sink your company. If you are a carrier owner, you need to understand that a conditional safety rating can kill your business overnight. Brokers like CH Robinson and TQL are already tightening their compliance. If your carrier profile shows ELP violations, you are going to find yourself blacklisted from the high paying freight. The brokers are scared of the same lawsuits the carriers are. If a broker hires a carrier who has a history of language violations and that carrier has a wreck, the broker is now on the hook for millions. They would rather not use you at all than take that risk. So, what do? I mean, if you're serious about your trucking business, you have to stop checking boxes and start verifying safety. First, what you need to do is audit your hiring process. If your driver application doesn't have a section where the driver acknowledges the 391.11 B2 requirement, you need to add it today. Second, you need to conduct interviews in English. If you need an interpreter to talk to your driver during the interview, that driver is not qualified for a CDL. It sounds harsh, but that is the law. You are doing that driver a disfavor by putting them in a seat where they could end up in a Wyoming jail cell. Third, you need to document everything. When you do a road test, document that that driver was able to identify 5 different road signs and explain what they mean in English. Keep that in the driver qualification file. If a trooper stops them later, you have the proof that you did your due diligence. Now, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. A lot of this enforcement is tied into the border 2025 and 2026 push on immigration. Lawmakers are using the English proficiency rule as a way to self-police the industry. By making it expensive for carriers to hire non-proficient drivers, they are effectively closing the loophole that allowed thousands of non-domiciled drivers to flood the market in the first place. Now, whether you agree with the politics or not, the economic reality is the same. The cheap labor model of trucking is being regulated out of existence. If your business model relied on hiring drivers who will work for 40 cents a mile because they didn't know the rules or the language, that model is now dead. The fines and the lawsuits will eat your profit before the first load is even delivered. Now, this message for 2026 is clear. Professionalism is the only way to survive now. The DOT is no longer playing games. Between the CVSA out of service criteria, the Wyoming jail time, and the Supreme Court liability cases, the walls are closing in on unqualified operations. If you're watching this video and you're a driver who is struggling with the language, then my advice to you is to invest in yourself. Take the classes, learn the signs, and don't wait until you're sitting on the side of a highway in the middle of the night with a $1,000 ticket in your hand. And if you are a carrier or owner operator watching this video that hires drivers, stop looking for cheap seats. Look for professionals. A professional driver might cost more per mile, but they won't cost you your entire company in a negligent hiring lawsuit. The days of faking it until you make it are over. Between the state laws in place like Wyoming and Idaho and this new federal push to penalize employers, the English proficiency requirements is now a primary enforcement target. Click the link in the description box to read the full article now that you finish watching this video so you can see the exact language of the bill for yourself. And make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and turn on your post notifications. And while you're still here, check out the video on the bottom of the screen below where I talk about why 90% of carriers fail in the first year. Now, in this video, I explain the single truck trap, the cash flow gap, the scaling chaos, and failing forward. Once again, I'm Marcellus with Trucking with NBR. Stay safe, stay loaded, and I'll see you on the next video.